And we've seen that happening in some border stations like Busia and the Maraba and Elegu. You'll find that we've gotten some staff who are comfortable working there and they are ladies. So if we do the facilities and they're also gender sensitive, it will help us and also help the women traders and also the stakeholders we are working with. We work with the migrations, we work with the Uganda Police Force at those border stations. And we would also wish that they also, when they come, we are moving together, and their ladies also who are working at the borders are also finding it conducive. Then when the ladies, we believe, when the ladies who are trading find that we have enough ladies to take care of them, they will come and it will be easier for them to do business. We also believe that we must have equipment that makes it easier for a woman to trade. Equipment like, I don't know how we call these, is it point of sale machines? In case someone wants to make a transaction, then the infrastructure should be able to cater for that. You don't have to go to a business facility that is manned by a man, and then you bring out your millions to the suppliers of the man, so you can do your business online without having to move cash. ATMs, I mean, we should have enough of them. The lady should be able to go and the bank freely. If you've made your money across the border, probably you can get your bank it on one side of the border, then you withdraw it on the other side of the border. And that makes it easy. So that such things, including also online payments and like Visa cards, we believe they reduce the human interaction, because most of these problems that the ladies face when they are talking about them, you realize that they are talking about interfacing with a person who is a man, opposite sex especially. So if you're going to trade online, we believe that this will reduce a lot on this interaction, and also help us accommodating problems brought by like COVID and other diseases. Now, for us who are the borders, we understand that internally they talk about COVID, but for us, it has always been COVID, then yellow fever, and then so many things. One time the border was closed with Kenya because of some disease, and we had to fight to have it open that very night because we hadn't been informed. So our neighbor can't blame us, can't tell us we are bringing to us this disease, and we are not aware of that. So it is so many other diseases. So, and also we have to do process automations. Also, if you came and you can self-declare, for instance, your goods, you don't need an agent. In case you need to declare, you don't need an agent. You come and you declare yourself, and the process which is automated uses you without having to interface with anyone. I think it will make it easier for a lady to come and be attracted to the borders. Then simplifying the processes even further, continuous simplification, because the more bureaucratic it becomes, the more it becomes harder for a lady, especially to work, especially if you don't have enough staffers who are female. Then we talk about the gender sensitive stakeholder relations. Here we talk about working with the transport and logistics sector to make sure that the interests of the ladies are actually covered. I am sure most of the transporters are men, and most of the drivers are women. It's good we are seeing now more women coming on board to drive trucks, shoot trucks. That's good. But that sector is predominated by men. So we have to make sure that if we are to make it conducive for the ladies, that we make it gender sensitive. Then promoting group activity, we are glad yes, he's doing that for us. He's working on that. So it won't be very hard for us to add a brick on that. Then providing information in many languages spoken in a given area, because historically the ladies have suffered going to school. So most likely if you bring information in English, it may benefit a man more than a woman. So it is important that you communicate in a language you understand. and also rallying other major stakeholders. And then financially, what we can do probably as well is to make the processes very fast, that we reduce the cost of doing business even faster. We are providing office space and also storage to make sure that it's not expensive for a woman to do their business at the border. So I think if we can do all these things together and also learn from each other as government, we can make it easier for a lady to do business. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sozi. On the side of the women traders and other actors, do you think there is anything new that needs to be done? For all the years you've been engaging with women in cross-border trade, what else needs to be done? Where is the gap?
Okay, the gap is being covered. What I may say is that because the biggest problem was when they were trading individually. But I'm seeing that the effort to work together has really gone up. It has developed our neighbors, Kenya. So if we can do more and more working together so that we can benefit from economies of scale, it will do greatly. Even it becomes easier for financiers to come on board, because if they give money to circles and the investment clubs, I don't see them resisting the temptation of having 2,000 members of a cooperative know of their services. So I think that is the area is money. We need to help these ladies to know how they can save in their doing business. And probably they also talked about to helping them look for markets. This we can do if with their support now, the ladies, if they can rally their members to always make sure that their goods are counted by the government. Because we don't count for revenue, usually, incidentally. We count for statistics. And they should also look at the ladies should look at the export sector, because there is little money in imports. They are very huge players in imports. They are only going to use it to penetrate the market deep there. But if you can use that opportunity now to penetrate the market and get goods to consolidate and export, there's more money in exporting maize than in importing rice. So if we can, and the government can only come in if we can be able to count. If you call upon yourself to give us the statistics, what you are taking out, then the government will count and they will know that in Busia probably we need a maize mill to bring the services even closer to the people there. So I think that way we shall work together. I submit.
Thank you, Mr. Sozi.
Yes.
You're basically pointing us towards strengthening formalization of trade.
Yeah.
Mr. Twine Emmanuel. I'll introduce Mr. Twine Emmanuel. He's a senior commercial officer in the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. And I'm glad that Mr. Sozi has ended at the point of formalization of trade. Majority of our women traders here have endeavored to get into formal trade. However, one of the major challenges they're having is recurrent occurrence of non-tariff barriers. Recently, COVID-19 came in and it brought with it new NTBs. There are high testing fees for COVID-19, the border closures, as we know, and so on. And other NTBs, non-tariff barriers that keep reoccurring, the abrupt bans by Kenya, and so on. Mr. Twine, as the Minister of Trade, how do we overcome this problem? It's a recurrent problem, and we would like to work together to get over that hurdle. Mr. Twine also heads the NTB Monitoring Committee for Uganda. So he's the right person to answer this question.
Thank you so much. And I want to also take this opportunity to thank all the participants in this meeting. I want to extend my sincere thanks to EAC for having organized it, because as a ministry, and like has been said by the previous panel which was here, it bridges the gap between us as MDAs, specifically the ministry, and the people we serve, who are the traders. I want to, before going to the question that has been asked once again, I thank the panel, specifically the ladies that were here earlier, for the issues that they pointed out, especially in terms of information gap, and in terms of enabling that, ensuring that the ministry is seen on ground to support their activities, especially in line with cooperatives development. I salute you, ladies, and thank you so much. Thank you, Yasi, for having brought them in to enable that we get this first-hand information so that we take action and improve service delivery as a ministry. We take that positively. I'll answer your question, then later go into talk quite maybe talk about the issues that were earlier raised by the ladies, especially where they are enhancing their activities and where there is a gap where we need to improve. I also point that one out. You have talked about, you have asked me about formalization of trade for the women, noting that there are increasing barriers to trade, especially within the wake of COVID, where most countries, our trading partners within the region, bringing in new NTBs, instituting new NTBs in the face of protecting against COVID spread. We take note that COVID actually got us as a region by surprise. We had not prepared for COVID, but it came, and therefore countries had to put in plans for public safety, including our own country. And what we immediately did was to have meetings. We have both regional and bilateral meetings to ensure that we harmonize the procedures, especially testing facilities, the costs, and mutual recognition of test results for the traders who cross borders. And that was done. We also developed guidelines with guidance of the East African community. And since then, the guidelines have been developed and disseminated across the EAC. I can't 100% be sure that everyone knows about these guidelines, or they have reached the last person they should reach, especially women cross-border traders, which I might point out maybe as a gap, but we tried to ensure that these guidelines were translated into local languages and sent down to the borders to ensure that everyone understands them and understands the procedure. Yes, COVID impacted greatly, especially on the cross-border trade, where at some borders also you would see zero trade. Trade was not moving on completely. You would see that completely there was zero values in terms of trade at most borders. And this was because during mainly the times of the lockdown, where there was a total lockdown and the border markets were closed. Of course, we see that now it is starting to pick up. And we hope that with the interventions of especially adhering to the SOPs as put in place by continuous sensitization, these markets will eventually open, and we see trade once again coming up, because we as a ministry know that about 20% of the total export is informal. Our total export is contributed by informal trade, and therefore we recognize it, and we plan, we work with institutions like yours to ensure that we formalize this kind of trade, that we can have more gains of trade from it. Specifically, you talked about the bans and the restrictions which our partner states are imposing, and I can confidently say that yes, for example, Kenya banned a number of our products, sugar, we have poultry and poultry products, we have milk from crossing. but we are engaging. We have, I think even last week, we had an engagement with our Kenyan counterparts at the highest level of His Excellency the President to ensure that these restrictions are removed. The engagements, of course, sometimes, they don't move at the speed which they are expected. But for example, for sugar, we have already registered success, and sugar, the ban was lifted. We are currently exporting the sugar, and we are given a quota of about 90,000 metric tons, which now is entering into the Kenyan market and other markets. Other products like milk, they're still under negotiations, but we see sometimes the restrictions are lifted and then put again, but these are targeting specific companies. We have noted with milk, they are only targeting one company, but we keep engaging with Kenya, and Kenya has agreed to come, and they were supposed to do a verification mission on the dairy sector to ensure that the milk meets the rules of origin. But it has not yet happened. We hope that maybe within the either coming month, it will be done. And that will also happen for other products like poultry. Like I said, we are engaging at very high levels within the auspices of the East African community. We are handling those non-tariff barriers. That said, I would request that I talk briefly about other issues that were raised by the ladies. The lady one mentioned that there is a problem in Elegu. The problem is to deal with the flooding. And that flooding is affecting trade, we conducted as a ministry a flood mitigation study, and it identified a number of options that we need to implement to mitigate the flooding. And those options, of course, the amounts of money highlighted are above billions, about 100 billions plus for each option. But we are engaging with Ministry of Environment, Water and Environment, and Ministry of Works to ensure that we get these funds, and either of those ministries takes lead in ensuring that that activity happens. We continue, and I want to salute my brother from URA here. We continue to work with Uganda Revenue Authority and all trade facilitating institutions. The WTO, World Trade Organization, Trade Facilitation Agreement actually charges the Ministry of Trade with the coordination role of all trade facilitating activities, and we will really work with the URA, Ministry of Agriculture, and the rest. We thank Directorate of Immigration is represented here. All these are trade facilitating institutions that we really work with to ensure that we scale up our operations that serve not only the women cross-border traders, but generally. And I must say that we are glad that within this National Development Plan 3, focus has shifted from budgeting, sector budgeting to program-based budgeting, and the Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Agriculture, and a few other institutions and UDC have been tasked to look for resources jointly that support women in trade. It is clearly captured within the NDP3, and we are engaging, and that will sort out the issues or contribute towards resolving issues to deal with, for example, the credit that was mentioned, either in forms of revolving fund or others, but also providing more information, also engaging continuously with our neighbors to ensure that issues like STR, which has been mentioned, that's not operating very effectively, especially on the borders of DRC, is implemented. And we're also engaging and improving or increasing the harmonized list of products. We are grateful that within the EAC that is happening, but with the borders of DRC, we need to scale that up. I also want to say that the ministry, together with the State House and other government institutions, agreed that loads, especially in DRC, be made. It was highlighted here by the lady from Goli Mahagi, and a number of roads were identified for construction. Those roads are aimed towards ensuring that they promote cross-border trade between us and DRC. Currently noting that our total trade is only at about 600 million US dollars, including both informal and informal, and we expect to increase this towards even $1 billion and more. And this will only be done if we sort out the road infrastructure and remove the non-tariff barriers along those borders. So the road from Nebi, Gori Mahaji, 197 kilometers is going to be constructed. Then there's Goma Rusuru, Bunagana, 100 kilometers. Budiva Bridge across Semliki, about 78 kilometers. And I'm really glad that the lady from Goli mentioned that when they talk about constructing those roads, then people take it maybe negatively, but them at the border know the impact. And we have conducted detailed studies. We know we worked with the Uganda Revenue Authority to do tariff, maybe even to forecast tariff benefits that we can engage, that we can benefit through improved exports. And we hope that this is a project which is worth undertaking. And we need to thank our heads of state for having really agreed towards taking us into that direction. The other thing is that we are implementing projects at other borders, and together with Uganda Revenue Authority, we are going to be establishing an OSBP at that same border is being undertaken with support from Trademark East Africa. I thank you. And this is also aimed towards ensuring that we streamline cross-border trade along that border. Good news, we have a very supportive, strong officer here. You will also get an office when that is done, where they will also be able to ensure that you are. Progress is also being done in Mpondwe. Mpondwe, yes, there is progress also in construction of the OSBP, but we're also going to put there the border market to ensure that the issues of insecurity, which we have also noted, instead of transporting into DRC and you get problems, then the DRC traders can be able to pick the goods. And this is also going to be done for South Sudan. But the challenge that we still have is that flooding, which we would want to first resolve. It was also, we were also asked to do a COVID mitigation plan. That mitigation plan is actually being thought, the ministry is thinking about it, and so far has conducted a study to see the impact of COVID on cross-border trade. That study, we are yet to receive the final report, and but from the initial report recommendations, it has been identified that for us to support that we need to support cross-border traders, especially the women who need to get back onto their foot, especially having been affected by this COVID. So we are looking at tentatively having how we can schedule a resolving fund that can support it. And currently, some development partners have bought the idea. Some of them include Trademark East Africa, include Danida, and the rest to support the women to get back and start trading. We hope that that study is in the final stages of completion, like I've said. But there's also that study, the study on market access to ensure that the women and the cross-border traders can access markets after especially this COVID impact. Then there's also a study on e-commerce. One of the ladies talked about e-commerce, and that e-commerce study has also identified that to smoothen the environment further, we need to establish an e-commerce platform for the small-scale traders generally, both at the borders, but generally small, medium-sized enterprises and cross-border traders. They can be able to place their goods onto the platform and then sell. Because we realize that currently the platforms that you have like Jumia and the rest, it is very expensive to place your goods there for a small-scale cross-border trader. We hope that this platform that we are talking about, which will be PP managed, can be able to assist both small-scale cross-border traders and MSMEs to ensure that we also get into the digital world and increase our trade and generally our welfare. I want to stop here, but also to reiterate the fact that the ministry remains committed to ensuring that we provide a conducive trade environment. The national trade policy is very clear, and it states that among one of the priorities that the ministry will prioritize the issues of women and other disadvantaged groups to ensure that they trade within the EAC, the COMESA, and generally now the greater AFCFTA. We remain committed to working with all trade facilitating institutions to ensure that all trade facilitation aspects that promote cross-border trade, we work on them and ensure that we implement them together, because trade facilitation is not a one-man's show, but we really work together and ensure that that happens. Where gaps have been identified, like I said, especially in terms of cooperatives, how do we support the women cooperatives? We are going to ensure that we improve that. I rest my case for now.
Please, can we have a stronger round of applause for the Minister of Trade? Mr. Twine, we are very excited with all these plans that you have. And I would like to thank the Ministry of Trade because they've been a very good partner to EAC. We always find open doors in Mr. Twine's office, and we always have our issues reaching him very fast, and they're always acted upon. Maybe I could just point out, Mr. Twine, that for the new OSBPs that you're planning, please provide for persons with disabilities. That is, I think, the only gap we've noted with those that are existing. So please put it into plan. Mr. Twine, you've pointed to a number of issues, including planning for a revolving fund for small-scale traders. This brings me to Mr. John Walgembe. Mr. John Walgembe is the Executive Director for the Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises. John is I should say, an expert on issues of small-scale industries and enterprises, having worked in this sector for a very long time. I would like to ask you, Mr. Walgembe, we had, after COVID, we had quite a number of partners supporting funding for business revival, business, but a number of our women traders and other small-scale entrepreneurs were not able to access these funds. As an expert in this area, what do you think is the problem? I mean, it's like having a basket of goodies there and you're told just go and get them, but you do not get them. What could be the problem and what needs to be done?
Okay. First of all, I want to thank EAC and Trademark for organizing this policy dialogue and for inviting me. I'm one of the few men who are privileged now to be part of this meeting. And I would like to congratulate myself for making it here. I also want to tell you, before I go into the details, because these details you will hear all the time, but let me tell you, why do I choose to work for small businesses? Some of you think it's a job. No, it's not my job. I do this really as a volunteer. I have my other job where I earn money. I'm a consultant and that's how I earn money. Why do I focus on small businesses? The bulk of our businesses, we have what we call micro, small, and medium. The bulk, over 93% are micro. And the bulk of those micro businesses are run by women. The bulk of those businesses are run by women who run them as a form of necessity. Now, most of us were raised by women. Well, yes, they gave birth to us, but also raised. That's another issue. Most of us, we were raised by women. They had to run small businesses to make ends meet so that we study. So we have a duty to ensure that these businesses are running. So that's my mission. My mission is to ensure that micro businesses are supported to thrive. And I don't really care what people think about me. Someone called me the other day. Someone saying this about you. I said, I don't care. It can go to hell. What we are doing is very clear. We want to support businesses to thrive. Now, in March 2020, there was this COVID-19 pandemic. We have done a comprehensive study on the impact of this pandemic on businesses, and it is terrible. 60% of all businesses in this country, including cross-border traders, are faced with cash flow challenges. 68% have had to use up their savings. That's why they're saying we no longer have capital. 20% have had to sell their assets in order to get through this. And about 36% have either closed or are on the verge of closing. This is the situation we are handling. So after the first pandemic, there was now a second lockdown. After the first pandemic, we pushed government for what we call a stimulus package. A stimulus package is like someone is in coma, but you want them to get back to life. Government put in place a very comprehensive package, and we thank them for that. They committed to put about R1 trillion in UDB. They committed some other money to the microfinance support center, and so on and so forth. To our dismay, when after we had negotiated, after the money went to UDB, when we went to UDB, DB said, no, this is money for recapitalization. What are you talking about? Your people are too small, they are too disorganized. Okay, so when we were in parliament asking for the money, we were not disorganized. After the money had reached you, now we became what? This is total confusion. So I told the lady, please, this money people need it. Their businesses are struggling. 455 billion. Now there's a forensic audit. Where did the money go? We had some money went to build a Kamwes. Honestly, you people, even if you have a big job, how can you give money for micro businesses to a Kamwes? So this is why we do what we do here. So that problem was there. Because you have made noise, now they are doing forensic audit. And we're not going to keep quiet. Because the people we are defending are defenseless. For us, you okay. Me, I don't need money. I've never borrowed. I don't need to borrow. But our members, the people we are speaking for, need that money badly. Okay, so that story went. Second lockdown. We started making noise. Hey, SMEs, SMEs. I think the president said, who are these people? Well, there are some people called SMEs, businesses, what? Said, okay, what can be done for them? Okay, they pushed there, they pushed a proposal. Thankfully, there was a proposal in the Ministry of Finance that had gathered dust. It was already there gathering dust. So I said, look, this is the proposal, this is the idea. We bring 100 billion, private banks bring 100 billion, and we run it. So this is what we've been negotiating for up to now. We pushed to make sure that in this month, you can't push people to MU. You see, MU is not bad, and I don't have a problem. Microfinance Support Center is a member, and we're trying to see how to reform this. But a small business person, I cannot be put in a group of 30 people to borrow 30 million. Or a group of 80 people. When you calculate, each person is getting 25,000. Really, even these cross-border traders, can you make a line for 25,000 and you spend 5 weeks being trained? No, it's a joke. So we said, no, this time people should be able to borrow money individually. So we influenced the conditions, thankfully, with Siatini. My colleague from Siatini was there, and she was saying, but micro businesses, yes. Thankfully, the ministers also understood, and now we have committed 200 billion to help SMEs to recover. They said, oh, only big banks should take this money. This was Bank of Uganda in the meeting. Only big banks, they are the ones with the fiduciary. We said we don't want that complex words. We want money to be accessed by ordinary people. So finally, they agreed, okay, we shall also give post-bank pride and so on and so forth. So the agreement has been reached. We are just waiting for the announcement. But the announcement is taking long. I don't know what's happening. The announcement is taking long. So that is the situation. Now, once that money is announced, ladies who are there cross-border, what? This money, it is taxpayers what? No one is doing you a favor to give you this what? Go for it. Go for it, apply. If you fail, tell us that you have failed for ABCD reason, we shall push for you. Yes. There's nowhere we can't reach. This man was committed by His Excellency, and it has to be accessed. But the status quo is we are now waiting. We are all just crossing our fingers, waiting for the Honorable Minister to do what? To announce the package. So that is the position. Businesses have been hurt. We are trying to look for solutions. Even this money that we are talking about is only a drop is only a drop in the ocean. More needs to be done. We need to come together to ensure that we influence policies. Right now, at this moment, there's a discussion going on the national entrepreneurship strategy. Are you aware? No. Are you seeing? In the meeting, I only saw three women. Are you see how men are going? You see the way they commandeer processes. By the time the policy comes out, then it's just like, we want to endanger, they call it engender the what? It is a post-mortem. Be in the meeting. So I am going to share the link tomorrow, bombard that meeting. We don't want you to tell things after, oh, you see, the policy was developed. Now we need to review it to ensure that it's gender what? No, it should be gender sensitive from the word. So members, this is the position. We look at Yasi as a strong partner. We look at the ministry as a partner. We look at Siatini and all the other organizations here as partners in this journey. It's a tough one. Sadly, we have a lot of members. So Federation is big. Federation is the biggest association here in terms of sheer number. We have members in refugee camps. We have members on those cross-border places. But sadly, we have not been active in those spaces. And I think we can do more to support our women there. And we'll be happy to get in touch with our women and see, okay, what can we do to support you? Finally, we've talked about a lot of propositions, but I want to say, national e-commerce platform, it is being developed. Do you know that? Has any of you attended the stakeholder meetings? We had the stakeholder meeting last week with UCC and PSFU and so on. Please participate in this process. The other issue that was mentioned, so I think for me, that is the position. We can do more to support our women. We cannot, this 200 billion is not enough. We want to do more, but it's a good starting point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. We have had the spaces. I think women traders, we need to see how do we enter these spaces. Let that be something we can think about. How are we going to enter these spaces and engage in where we are relevant and where we need to be heard? Okay, so I'll come now to Susan, Miss Susan Achen from Uganda Women's Network.
Yes.
Susan is an expert on issues of women's rights and access to justice. And Susan, a lot has been said here. The women traders want to trade, they want to engage, they want to explore a market span beyond. With our engagements with women traders since 2012, we have noted one major challenge that does not usually feature in these discussions, the government action and so on. That's the issue of gender-based violence. The women traders have shared with us a number of experiences. They faced harassment, both in the formal and the informal routes, because usually it has been that harassment is in the informal routes, so come formal. But even in the formal routes, there is some bit of harassment. We know that in our societies, usually these are issues that are not spoken about. So even for the women traders, when they face this harassment in trade, not at home, but in trade, some of them fear to speak out. They suffer with it in silence. For me, I think what really stood out for me when I just joined the ERC, we had a meeting in Mutukula with women traders. And as we were trying to bring these issues to discussion forum, they shared with us an experience of one of their colleagues who had been harassed, seriously harassed by an official and probably threatened because she disappeared. So we couldn't even follow up. We couldn't get her to, share her experience, report, and so on. Susan, as an expert in this area, how can we overcome the issue of gender-based violence that is disturbing cross-border trade for women?
Thank you very much, Lina. Like you've rightly said, gender-based violence, particularly violence against women, is not something that is widely spoken about when we are speaking about trade. even when you find reports about gender-based violence, the gender disaggregation is terrible. So you are not able to know who the survivors of violence are, or who the perpetrators are, or even what forms of violence are presenting commonly in trade. Now, like you very rightly said, GBV in formal and informal trade is the same, but it will present very differently. For us to address GBV, or I prefer to call it violence against women, because that is the issue. That is the issue. If you look at violence against women, if you want to address it, you need to start by knowing the scope of it. How does it present? What's its nature? And then you look at the perpetrators. Then you'll be able to speak to what needs to be done. Studies, like I've said, there's not much data about violence against women in trade, but the existing data shows that nearly 50% of women in trade, in cross-border trade, are facing one form of violence or another at any one time. Now, that is a very big number of people who are being oppressed at different points. The solutions may lie in different areas. It could be a policy matter, you know. It could also be a question of what the institutions are able to do. The starting point always is to educate people about violence. Many of us do not even know that some of the things that are going on constitute violence, even in trade. Education, it has been said in this room over and over again, the lack of information. There's also a lack of information about violence against women in trade, in cross-border trade. Do the women traders know that they have rights to be protected about violence against women? But do they even know where to go? We are speaking cross-border trade. I am very curious to know whether we have a mapping of organizations that can provide response and prevention. If I crossed into Kenya and I had a problem, where can I go? Do we have that kind of mapping, which we can share with cross-border traders? But also there are the institutions that provide response and prevention services. Mr. Sozi spoke very eloquently about placing gender at the center of planning, of the human resource capacity, of policy. It could be a tax policy. It could be a budget policy. It could be for the human resources. It is one thing, we make a common mistake. Many a time when people say gender considerations, we think it's about getting it onto paper or about getting a woman at the table. It needs to go beyond that. So one way for sure is to make services, service points, customs offices, institutions that work in cross-border trade, make them more friendly to women. One of those for sure is to put a woman in that seat. You know, that of its own is going to cut away many barriers that women face. But is that woman aware of how gender plays a part in promoting trade? They need to know. Having women in those places is not enough. They need to be aware of the gender power dynamics that cause violence to women. If they are not aware, they themselves could be perpetrators. So it's about also educating them about what violence is, but also about the fact that women and men interact with law enforcement or justice, law and order actors very differently. So they need to be aware of what the violence is or what the gender need is for them to be able to respond to that woman's need. It also goes to all the plans. I am very excited about all the plans that we are hearing. the plan in the NDP, the gender policy that Uganda Revenue Authority is working on, the entrepreneurship plan. But for as long as whatever gender considerations do not speak directly to the needs of women, if they remain generic, then these challenges are going to continue happening. They are going to continue happening. Gender-based violence in trade is also presents very differently. Most of the studies have shown that it is mostly it's mostly economic and it's mostly sexual. But there is the other aspect that we need to consider, the one that starts at home. There is something called intimate partner violence. Intimate partner violence, which prevents women from participating fully in trade, because economic empowerment, I'm sure you can all attest to it, has been found to also catalyze violence against women. It is indeed a social good, but has also been found to cause violence because society continues to have mindsets, a set mind about what women should do. When women come to trade, they come with their reproductive and maternal functions. They do not leave those at home. And in them coming with them to the workplace, sometimes it's causing trouble at home. And women end up, sometimes you find that they have to trade through others. And that of its own is problematic, because that is, if you are not present, if your name is not on the paper, if you're not the one signing, if you're not the one issuing the receipt or receiving the money, if you're not in that paper trail, you are not benefiting, you know? You can be cheated, you can be ripped off, but you cannot also go ahead and claim certain things. So in as much as we are trying to put in place response and redress mechanisms for gender-based violence, we also need to engage partners of women traders, especially where there is violence. This is not to say that all women traders are facing violence, no. But how are we looking at that aspect of it? How are we looking at that aspect of it? The questions of addressing violence will start in policy. Do we have policies that speak to the women's needs? And right now we are talking about promoting cooperatives for women. How can we strengthen existing policy to enable women bargain better, to enable their collective bargaining, to enable them come into cooperatives? That needs to be strengthened. It could be in the institutions. I already spoke about institutions that handle trade matters. Do they have the capacity technically? But also it could be logistically. We are speaking about the police at the cross-border, at the border points. Do they have what it takes to respond to a case of violence? A few years ago, I was working up country in a patch district, and a man came and knocked on my window at night. I was living alone and I got so terrified. So in the morning, I walked to the police station and my case could not be reported because there was no red pen. There was no red pen at that point. So I continued. I walked to the town. On my way back, I came with a red pen, and that is what the officer used. Now remember, some of the border crossings are not the main one. And women, especially those in informal trade, they take advantage of the porosity of our borders. How are those police officers responding to these cases? The health facilities, do they have capacity to test? Are there mandated cadres who can conduct tests if it is, for example, a case of sexual violence, rape or rape in this case? Can they do the tests that are necessary? Are there the mandated cadres who can do that test, or is it only a trainee nurse? You know, so it comes down to the capacity of the institutions. Even as we speak about the institutions, what is their synergy? Addressing violence is a matter of multi-sectoral effort. So there needs to be synergy between the police, the health facility, the judicial structure in that area, but also with the customs body. Because many a time the customs authorities know who has suffered either a beating or who has been robbed or who has been, someone who has been violated. You are a member, the customs officials are a huge stakeholder in that area. So what is the synergy between the two? The functionality and the synergy needs to be strengthened so that when women in trade have issues, the chain, that referral pathway is not broken. The referral pathway is not broken. It could also be an economic issue. Earlier on, somebody spoke about why don't we have ring fencing for certain programs for women in trade? Because we know capital remains an issue, access to credit remains an issue. So what the issue of accessing government programs, one of the ladies who spoke earlier said they are not able to access them properly because many of these programs are limited to, could I call it sectors? It's either agricultural or it is UWEP because you are based in this parish, or it is youth livelihood. But again, the requirements make it a little bit difficult if you're a cross-border trader, because the nature of your trade appears to be mobile. Yes, so how are they addressing the issue of access to capital, to credit, and also the issues around collateral? Because that is an economic, an issue of economic violence. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Susan. Please, another round of applause for my entire panel. Thank you so much, and you may now take your seats. I'd like at this juncture to hand back to the MC of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, panelists, for the beautiful conversations and the different issues you've highlighted. Thank you, Lina, for moderating that session. Again, we have a representative from the women traders from Southern Sudan. She's called Yomima Semira. She's here representing her other fellow traders from Southern Sudan. We really don't want it to pass without her at least saying something to share her experience trading across the Uganda southern border. I want to invite Yomima to briefly come and share in a few minutes to say at least something to us in regards to our experience across the Southern Sudan border.
Thank you very much. I'm by name Yomima Semira, as they have said. Protocol is observed. First of all, I wanted to give thanks to EAC of recognizing the cross-border women traders of Nimule to come to Kampala and hear from the rest of the borders what is really taking place in East Africa. In introduction to the Nimule Women Cross-Border Traders Association, we have started in 2018, but in all this, we did not have people who are mentoring us. It was Trademark who decided to go to South Sudan and begin to organize the association. Then from all this time, we did not have people who can support us fully. We are very happy because EASI came in to really support us, especially this year. In the support that EASI did for us, EASI trained so many women. As I'm saying, in South Sudan general, like we have other borders that EASI did not reach. There are 3 borders in South Sudan that are functioning now. That is Nimule, Kaya, and Nadapal. In these 3 borders, EASI has reached Nimule, and at the moment they are working with us peacefully, and I really like the way EASI has brought us. They have registered the association to the cooperative this year. We have so far 1,000 women since EASI came in. Those are the women who are trained in Nimule. I'm very happy with EASI, not appreciating EASI, but what EASI did for the association, it is really going to work all over South Sudan to make the women in South Sudan be able to trade. Most of us has to know that in South Sudan, our women are not accepted to trade. They are just to stay home. Like they are married women, you have to stay home and wait from your husband. But now, because of adopting from other countries like East Africa Community, now women are going to the market. Now they are able to make trade. At the border here, we have a lot of challenges. The challenges are our women are not able to carry their goods from South Sudan to Uganda. The agricultural activities, we are limited to at least sell few things. That is shea butter, honey, and gum Arabic. And those are the seasonal thing. It only like sometime in 2 years it just yield one times. So this is the thing that it's really making us to it has become very difficult for us as South Sudanese to make trade in this side. The other thing that I wanted to emphasize is the harassment. You know, most of our women feed in Elegu side. When they are crossing, they have to give at least something so that they are going and coming back. And moreover, they normally goes and they come back. This harassment sometimes makes the women to cross from Anyama. During COVID-19, we have about 3 women who are carried with their children because they used to go from Panya. Sometimes they stand from morning up to midday, waiting for the police to let them enter Elegu. This type of harassment is so bad. There is also one thing that they normally put the men or the policemen to be the ones searching for the women. And that is not good. That is one of the harassment. In those harassment, there is also issue of leaving your phone or paying money. If you do not want to leave your phone, you have to pay money at the border so that you'll be able to cross the border to Elegu and going back. Actually, I don't want to waste time. We have a lot of harassment that is happening in our side. I'll be happy for the East Africa community. When you want the women of South Sudan to join fully with the heart of being with you people, it is to at least have the relationship. If you are trading the other side, we have also to trade this side. What I just wanted to emphasize is only that our people are leaving the Ugandan women to cross the other side, make any kind of business, carrying their bananas, moving around the villages. But our people are not accepted to do this in Uganda. The other thing that I wanted to emphasize in is, if we are coming in a table like this, we should not leave all we have said here in the table. We should take it to the ground and implement it seriously. Most of the time we were used to be called to a Legu site to at least speak our problem to the East Africa community. But once we speak of it, it remains there in the table. As at the moment I'm talking, even if so how many times I've said, it will just remain here in Kampala. It will not go back to the border. And again, I was like hearing the issue of killing in South Sudan. It is not only Ugandan or Kenyan or Tanzanians that have been killed. Even we as a South Sudanese are also going on the same track or the issue. So, to be one, it is good to see where is that problem coming from and how will we solve it. We have to see the root of the problem and then solve it. I'll be happy with the Honorable Sila not to leave us behind as the South Sudanese women. You have to work with us hand to hand so that we see the problem, exactly where is that problem coming from. So that we will be also respected in other countries if we are coming to other countries. And if we are ever hearing from our country, like coming to other countries, we are hearing bad things in our country. As in other countries, people are not dying. So it's really hurting us. It is also hindering us as South Sudanese women traders, not even to go further with the trading. And again, if you can see, South Sudan is the bank for everybody in East Africa. Every country that round South Sudan are getting money from South Sudan. So it has reached to the level that we, the South Sudanese, are not even getting money. We don't know where the money is going. We also have to go and urge to our government so that there are other things that they have to restrict. We also have to carry our goods to other countries, not only other countries carrying goods to our country. I really have a lot to say, but I'm going to end here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yomima, for sharing your experience. Without wasting more time, I would like to first of all recognize the presence of Honorable Catherine Lwamwaka, who is the Deputy Chair for the Trade Committee in the Ugandan Parliament. But also I want to take this opportunity to invite her to come and say something to us. Honorable Catherine Lwamwaka, you're welcome, please, to speak to us.
Thank you, moderator, for giving me this audience to make some comments. The organizers for this very important meeting, Yasi, all our invited participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Lwamwaka. I'm a woman member of parliament for Omoro district, in Northern Uganda. I'm the Deputy Chairperson, the Committee of Tourism, Trade and Industries. And I am also the Vice Chairperson, Uganda Women Parliamentarians Association. I did not come alone. I want to thank Emcee for the invitation extended to us. I have a colleague whom I have come along with from the Committee for Trade, Tourism and Industries. If you don't mind, allow me request her to introduce herself. Honorable, please.
Thank you, my boys. Emcee, our delegates today, dear participants, Chair, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Businga Harriet Mugenyi Akiki, woman representative of the people of Hoima District. Hoima District has great women. Hoima District has women who are hardworking. They like trading and they salute you. Thank you for coming.
When Emcee extended invitation to us, the committee felt it was very obvious for a woman representative to come, looking at the subject matter. And of course, when I was asked by my chair to nominate another colleague to move along with, I chose Honorable Harriet. Just because of the unique issues that we are coming to attend to. I want to thank Emcee so much for this initiative. And I want to state very clearly that I fully associate myself to your move of reshaping cross-border trade after COVID. And as a committee of parliament charged with the responsibility of monitoring the sector of trade in the country, I want to say that what you are doing falls directly under our committee. And I'm very glad that when I walked in during the presentations, the panels, I was happy that the representative from the Ministry of Trade was present in this meeting, Mr. Atwine. Dear friends and colleagues, maybe a few comments I would make in relation to what we've been discussing here. Number one, I want to also let you know that as a committee for trade in Parliament, we also had our own time and did a research on the impact of COVID-19 in our sector, which takes care of trade and industries and tourism. And by the way, our findings presented very clearly that the border districts, and when in comparison to other parts of the districts in other parts of the country, were more largely affected with the pandemic. Then secondly, again, when you look at the women traders and the men traders, our findings also reveal clearly that the female traders were more affected than their male colleagues. So I was not very surprised in your presentations when you are coming out with those issues, especially the panel of women with whom I entered and found them on from the different borders. Because I was also in the field. I remember I visited Elego. I was in Elego. The chair of Elego who spoke here, the engineer, I was with her and moved in the market of Elego physically, myself with my team, to assess the situation there. Very sympathetic. And I want to agree with the challenges that the women were presenting here, totally. Among some of the challenges that came out very clearly from the restrictions of movements that came during the COVID-19 lockdown periods, there are quite a number of things, but I just want to point at a few only. The cut-offs from business centers, main business centers for traders from other districts you realize some of our borders are not yet really well developed. Case in point is Elego. Elego border does not have even a bank. Elego border does not have an established market, just like the lady presented. And so for them to access banking service, they have to drive right up to Gulu city, which is very far. Now, during the lockdown, all these movements were not allowed. A number of women in my interactions, even with the business women there, lost lots of money because they could not access the bank. I want to agree with the lady trader from the other side, South Sudan. Because there are no banks in Elego, now our women traders and the men traders have to struggle to even get credit facilities from South Sudan. So these are some of the things that we got to discover on the ground. Cost of trading became so high because of the pandemic, and they lost a lot of markets, those who had already established markets, and difficulty in servicing loans, because a number of our traders rely a lot on loans. But during the lockdowns, COVID disrupted everything. People ate up their capitals. You cannot service a loan. And I am happy that depreciation in losses, depreciation of goods, losses of perishable goods were among other things that were clearly stated by our women panelists here, women traders panelists here. And dear friends, and among some of the recommendations that we came with, before the recommendations, we are also able to analyze some of the government interventions to support during this difficult time. I am happy one of the panelists talked about stimulus packages by government of Uganda. That went to UDB Bank, that went to UDC Bank. But in our own analysis as a committee, we realized that most of these funds are really not targeting our traders at the lower level. That is one clear thing that came out very, very straight during our presentations as a committee to the full house. And that is when we had to recommend that from now, government needs to strategize. The money is being sent to UDB, UDC is focusing at bigger enterprises, not focusing our local women, not focusing on the women who are involved in cross-border trades. We need something else to gear towards that. And I'm happy with the presentation that came from, I think, Mr. John. John talked about the stimulus packages and also the anxiety to the minister's announcement of the package, which is forthcoming. As a committee, our ears are waiting for that as well. And we are following that very closely as well to ensure that we are able to support the small scale traders to move to another level. Then something also that I want to comment about is we noticed that most of our embassies as a country do not have commercial attaches. A comment came during the discussions here, I noted, that we failed to identify markets for our goods outside. And as a committee, we noted we have diplomatic attaches at our embassies, but not commercial attaches. So we tend to give them wrong responsibilities that they don't have the qualification to deal in. And we had to also recommend for the ministry to take this and prioritize it this time so that we have commercial attaches at all our embassies, look into issues of trade into detail, issues of abuse of our traders, issues of harassment, issues of identification of market, negotiation of better markets for our people in the country. That's one thing that also we noted. Then on the issues of harassment, insecurities at our borders, dear friends in trade, I want to say that this issue has always come even in the flow of parliament as issues of national concerns to the country, not only from the Committee of Trade. There are quite a number of challenges with most of our borders in terms of ensuring the safety of our people. And I want to also assure you that as a committee, We've taken note of this, and we're doing everything possible to follow up with the line ministries so that they're able to ensure safety and security at our borders. Particularly on a Lego, on the issue of the flooding, I want to give a comment on that. We made a follow-up, a contract on a memorandum of understanding that the local government of Amuras entered into. We had an engagement with the minister over it, and I am glad that the senior officer from the Ministry of Trade has commented on it. What we look forward to as a committee is the Ministry of Trade to prioritize some of these things in the next year's budget, which is almost starting, budgeting process, which is almost starting. It's good that the officer was here making those comments and counting them as in list of priorities. I'll be one of those who will be very disappointed in the committee if these things does not surface to us to give our blessing so that it goes to the main house to be passed into budgets for the year. So I want to assure you of our commitment as a committee that we will do our best in ensuring that all that will be prioritized from the Ministry of Trade and shall come for the committee for its blessing and appropriation of funds. We will be very keen at scrutinizing how issues of gender has been given attention to, because we know majority of the women in trade are women who are doing trade at low scale, and we need to support them so that they're able to push up and move forward. They contribute a lot in transforming the economy. Just like somebody has said, when you look at the population of the women only, that means a lot if we are to transform ourselves as a country. Then if we engage these women into productive activities, we are sure that they're going to contribute more because of their number as well, and we'll be able to realize transformation faster as a country. So dear ladies and gentlemen, I wouldn't wish to take a lot of your time in this meeting, but overall, I want to thank all the panelists who came here, made their presentations to give us a better knowledge, first-hand information from what is exactly on the ground. And also we look forward to more engagements in this kind of thing. We are so grateful, EACI, for inviting us. The first time we interfaced with EACI was under our invitation as a committee for trade when we were beginning to move to the field to assess the impact of COVID-19 on trade as a sector. So we look forward to further engagements. And I also want to encourage you, the women traders, all who are here, please make good use of the Committee for Trade and Industries. There are a lot that we can do together so that we are able to give a push towards our common goal. And also finally, I encourage you to make good use of the Women Platform in Parliament, the Women Parliamentarians Association. It's a good association that can really help us a lot in supporting women issues. I want to thank you once again, and I wish you all the best. Thank you. Sorry, Alina and the team for EACI, I'll request that you allow us leave because we have plenary on and it starts normally at 2. So in case you see us leaving, please bear with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable. And thank you for the beautiful words. And thank you also for always honoring EACI's invitations when you're called upon. And we are glad to be partners really with the Trade and Industries Committee of the Ugandan Parliament. At this time, I want to invite Ms. Florence Kutesa, the Executive Director for SIWA, to come and talk to us also briefly. Then after, we will have a review of some of the recommendations that came out from the discussions projected and aired down to us. Then we'll have closing remarks from representative from Trademark East Africa. So we are almost winding up. Please don't get tired.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. All protocol observed. Thank you, Yasi, for inviting us. I only have one recommendation and an appeal. I'm not going to talk. All of us have appreciated the role of Yasi, the mechanism which has been initiated on the ground. So I'm not going to talk about the merits of this mechanism, but briefly, we know that it has helped government to translate the policies on ground. It has helped government to build a multi-sectoral approach on the ground. And it has also helped government mobilize resources to do whatever they have done and created an impression shared by the ladies. So my humble appeal is, let this mechanism be recognized. Because in most of our policies, I'm a retired civil servant, as you can see, we put in place policies and they are never implemented at the ground. So my forum recognize the initiative by Yasi as a model that needs to be strengthened and that needs to be replicated. This will give an opportunity for Mr. Trine from Trade to be able to discuss how the program from the third NDP can be implemented at the ground. It will also help those who are designing e-commerce platforms. So many platforms are in existence, but can these platforms be initiated by the women cross-border trade? No, because they are developed at national level for significant and better off women. But also it should help us address most of the challenges which women are facing, the lack of reliable, timely, and easily accessible technical support. So I'm appealing that government, as you are implementing the third NDP, support them as they look for more money. And also let's replicate, let's examine the merits and let's see what can be done to ensure that this mechanism is implemented in all the right places. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kutesa Florence, for sharing with us. So at this point, I would like to request the technical team that side to share out what came out of this meeting as some of the challenges that the women have highlighted, but also some of the recommendations that have been aired up. We were capturing, so we did not want to take more time in repeating the same things. So they're already captured. We want to have them shared out. I'm going to be reading them out, but also you watch out on the screen so that if there are things that are missing, we are going to have them added. Please share the screen. So these are the issues that are affecting the women traders or the women in trade. One is high taxes on mobile money and banking transactions that are affecting digital trade uptake. The next is insecurity across borders affecting the loss of lives and goods. We've had, especially for a Lagos border, it has become very insecure for women traders to engage in trade. There is a continued closure of Katuna border and has not only closed businesses, but also escalated GBV, like it was highlighted, as people continue being idle. GBV cases also go up. There is a lack of standard markets with proper sanitation and storage facilities. We talked of for the perishable goods, there are no coolers and stuff. So some of the things really get wasted and that means losses. There is limited capital and also access to finance or credit. Some areas do not even have banks. Motukula, doesn't have, I think they also mentioned the Legu and some of these other borders. There are no banks or financial institutions that, thank you, that would at least support women with cheap capital or affordable capital for them to be able to invest in their businesses. There is limited information dissemination by government on policies, procedures, and opportunities. Things happen at national level, they never get to the grassroots like we all had. It was also mentioned that there are some policy engagements happening in Kampala or at national level, but some of the people on at ground level are never involved, they never get to know. They come for post-mortem at the review level where most times there is really nothing much to change. There's poor road network to some borders, causing delays in transit as well as loss of capital and lives. Mutukula in particular, but there's also Goli. I think it came out. So once the roads are bad, it does not really facilitate trade if people have to take a week or a number of days to get to their destination, and especially with perishable goods. And for business, I think time is money, really. There's recurrent flooding of River Onyama, which has continued to hamper business in Elegu, and it has limited financial or banking services that are established in Elegu. So the flooding, it also happens in the markets. It destroys goods, it limits, it hinders people from doing business. There's recurrent NTBs, including abrupt bans on goods by Kenya. They talked of poultry products and milk, maize, and others. Those were the major challenges that came out. Then for the recommendations for government, there's rethink the taxes on mobile money and banking transactions to enable digital financing, expedite opening of Katuna border, then address insecurities across the borders. There is also rehabilitate road networks to the borders in order to facilitate trade, support the cooperatives model, yes, support the cooperative model. Government should support the cooperative model. Support access to credit facilities to access small scale. I think government should enable the small scale traders to access affordable credit facilities so that they are able to, have capital for their business, especially now under the COVID times that most of the businesses have been affected, others have even totally closed. Address the flooding challenge of River Onyama in Elegu. A lot has been said about the flooding. Then push for adherence to agreed principles of VSC Treaty to limit the non-tariff barriers. There's one more. Yes, there's another slide, but yes, embrace this is to the women cross-border traders in particular. So there's need to embrace the collective trading, because most people who are coming up with support, whether government, whether CSOs and all these other partners, they are not willing to really work with individuals. So it's really important for women to embrace collective trading so that they are supported in groups, but not as individuals. So those so far some of the issues that have been captured here. If we really feel there are things that have been left out, we can bring them forward, or we can mention them before we get to Miss Gloria, the representative for Trademark, to give closing remarks. Are there any things we feel have been left out, whether on challenges or the recommendations? Someone help me with the microphone. Yes, for the rapporteurs, please take note of all the new issues that are coming up and you capture them. Then I also need a microphone to move around their issues this side.
Thank you so much. My name is Hope Jemima Kasimbazi. I am the Assistant Manager, Member Services, Private Sector Foundation, Uganda, and I'm responsible for gender equality, women in business, outreach and partnership. I thank ARC, TIMIA, government ministries and agencies, and those that have attended. My contribution is we need to highlight digitalization, benchmarking. We need to have sharing experiences, adult literacy. We need to create a platform for all stakeholders, particularly private sector. Storage of facilities already said. And we need to look at having representations of women in leadership. Thank you. Clap for me, please.
Thank you so much. She has brought out a few issues that we had left out: digitalization, adult literacy, but also creating a platform for all the stakeholders to share experiences. Any other?
Okay, thank you very much. I want to congratulate Yasi and all the partners. And I also especially want to thank the women for the passion they exhibited. Anything without passion doesn't go far. I wanted to bring in two angles. The first angle I want to bring in is the critical. Okay, Sheila would like me to say my names at the beginning, and I'll do that. I thought I would do that as the summary. My name's Winnie Lawoko Olwe, and I am the Director, SME, Science, Technology, and Innovation at Uganda Investment Authority. I just want to say three things. The first one is the critical need to engage entrepreneurship with professional skills and competencies. We were discussing the critical professional needs to have businesses grow, but we also looked at it from a perspective of the challenge of sustaining an employee 30 days a month for SMEs, which is a huge overhead. In that sense, we want to partner with ARC and other stakeholders to see how we can use the youth apprenticeship platform that UIA has to provide shared services. For example, we had with excitement the cooperatives that have been set up that have about 4,000 members. Each of those members need to be able to assess whether the business modules they're using are effective. It will also help in the issues of market access, because you may not be able to afford somebody to do your market access on a full time, but on shared services. The second thing I want to congratulate Yasi on is on the innovative cluster formation. UIA is the lead agency for investment facilitation and investment promotion. We hold FDIs. There are a number of FDIs that can be probably linked to these innovative clusters as a first level of market linkage along supply and value chains. Last but not least, something very dear to my heart, and I think Hope touched on it a little bit. In the next few months, we probably will be rolling out the National SME Portal, which is going to be a geo-mapped platform for all SMEs. I am glad to report that we now have 358,000 SMEs geo-mapped across the country, and these are traceable from your laptop. And we believe that this is going to support the clusters, and also we think that it is something that we need to start having the discussion. I have shared with Madam Sheila some forms which begins to allow the players to begin to get profiled. And finally, the profiling is by geomapping, so that if I am looking for a supplier of Irish potatoes, I can easily link and begin talking on a digital platform. We look forward to this conversation, and I once again congratulate you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Winnie Laoko from Uganda Investments Authority. We are glad to have you here, and thank you also for the nice, issues you've put across, and EASI and other partners would be really happy to have a partnership with Uganda Investment Authority, which will also go a long way in, trickling down to the women traders at grassroots level, because market linkage and accessibility is really an important issue. Thank you so much. Could we still be having other recommendations to add on? The microphone is there. I think after her, we'll have Gloria online, the representative from Trademark, to give us closing remarks. Then we'll close and go for our lunch.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Related to violence against women, one of the commonly emerging findings is that violence is mostly meted out on women cross-border traders by authorities that are mandated actually to facilitate their trade. Studies are showing that a lot of this is being done by the customs officials themselves, or in some cases even by police. So there's a need for regulation, or for strengthened supervision of particularly the government institutions, if that is where the violence is emerging from. How are we as stakeholders in women's cross-border trade engaging with justice, law and order sector of Uganda, but also tapping into bilateral relations that we have across the region to ensure that institutions, particularly government institutions, are not the ones that are perpetrating? It's a question of supervision. It's a question of ensuring that they are aware that what they are doing is not right. So for me, that would be the recommendation, that as the sector on cross-border trade, there should be stronger linkages with the justice, law and order sector to bring more attention to the issue of violence against women in the sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much. She has brought in a new dimension of strengthening supervision for government agencies and ministries who are sometimes seen to be the perpetrators when it comes to SGBV cases, especially along the borders. So thank you so much. That's another recommendation to our reporters. Please take note of that. At this time, we are going to have, is she on? Ruth, is Gloria on?
Can anyone hear me?
At this time, we are going to have Miss Gloria Atuheire, the Director, Women in Trade, Trademark East Africa, to give us closing remarks to officially close our meeting.
Good afternoon.
She's online. She's not with us in the room, for those of us who are here. She's online and also based in Nairobi. She's going to be talking to us and giving us closing remarks. Over to you, Gloria.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. An echo somewhere. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a bit awkward speaking to a camera when you can't really see their faces, but it's really a pleasure to be here. I observe all the protocol, people from the representatives from the Ministry of Trade, from the Uganda Investment Authority, from Uganda Revenue Authority, from the Parliament of Uganda, and all the other representatives in the workshop today. All protocol observed. It's been a delight to be part of this conversation. I've been in this space for 10 years, but it's always interesting to hear new insights. And I think this meeting today has been very insightful, but also very inspiring. I think I've drawn a lot of inspiration from the stories coming out of this. And so I want to, first of all, recognize EACI for convening this meeting today, Honorable Sheila, Ruth, Lina, Sylvie, and the rest of the team. Thank you all very much. Once again, my name is Gloria Atuheire from Trademark East Africa. I am the Director for Gender and Women in Trade, based in Nairobi. And Trademark has been a partner with EACI, but also in this space of trade facilitation for the last 10 plus years. And really our mission at Trademark is to grow prosperity and improve livelihoods through trade. So there were many programs in Trademark. I won't get into that right now, but my particular program, the Women in Trade program, is looking at the social and economic empowerment of women through trade. And so one of my highlights actually this morning was when I had Madame Jane from Mutukula, I believe, when she said that she herself is one of the achievements. That was really a highlight for me, because it speaks to the empowerment we're talking about. When we can come from a place of being afraid, of being harassed, to being able to speak out and clearly articulate what the issues are and the journey, I think that for me was really, really a highlight. So, and that is really what this work is about. It's not about just putting more money in people's pockets or just improving the gains from trade, which is really what we do. But it's really about that empowerment, that dignity. I think Sheila spoke about dignity in her opening remarks. That is really big for us, because we realize at the end of the day, it's the wholesome gain that comes from trade that changes the life of a woman or anybody else in that space. So again, just to acknowledge the contributions made throughout the day, acknowledge all the different and impactful initiatives happening across, not just in Uganda, but even across the region. And I won't necessarily get into all that because I think it has been well summarized. But just to say that we really acknowledge the great work. Trademark works with partners. We cannot work alone. Yes, is one of our main partners, but we do work with the government, work with the ministries, agencies in different programs across the region. So for me, just to summarize, I think some of the things that have been stated here today, and I think have also come through as the policy recommendations. One of them is the issue of participation. And I think a lot has been said about that. But I think that's a big one for us, the fact that women are now coming to the fore of these conversations. And clearly from what I think Mr. Walugembe said about the fact that there's a national entrepreneurship, something going on, and there were very few women in the room, it just shows that, we're still far off. We've come a long way, but clearly still a long way to go. But I think it's great to recognize that women's voices are being heard. Women are coming to the policy table. I was very excited when Mariam said she was all the way in Togo talking about, what has worked in East Africa. And that is really what it is. To get women in these spaces, to get more recognition for our contribution, economic, social, and political as well. So that for me is a big deal, and Trademark will continue to support the associations, forums like this one. We've also brought women to speak at global forums. Honorable Sheila spoke in March at the WTO Aid for Trade stock-taking event, and there'll be more opportunities like that. And the more we speak, the more recognition we get, the more the issues that are brought to the fore and are resolved. So that's really, for me, a very important bit of what we do. The issues of infrastructure have been spoken about. And although Trademark has invested quite heavily in one-stop border posts across the region, we do recognize that there's still a lot to be done. I think they mentioned roadworks or connectivity via road. The two that have stood out, of course, is Elegu and Mutukula. So on Elegu, what I wanted to share with the audience today is that under what Trademark calls a safe trade facility, emergency facility, which is a funding that came as a result of COVID-19, additional funding we got from our donors. There is going to be some work at Elegu, and I think the assessments have begun. I'm sure they're going to reach out to many of you to just have some of those conversations. So of course, we may not be able to solve all the problems, but I'm actually glad when I had, I think it was Mr. Twine, who said that there's actually a flood mitigation study that was done. I think that would be very interesting for us to get access to that report as we start to see how we can support to improve the infrastructure, particularly at the market in Elegu. So that's work in progress, and hopefully we'll be able to get something done towards the end of the year. On the Nimule side, that work is already ongoing with funding from EU. So at least we hope to provide, a safer, what we call safe trade zones, which is really a safe place where women can trade. On the sanitation issue, that's something I'm going to take away and confer with my colleagues, because that's really a disappointment that Mutukula is still suffering from this kind of challenges. So that's something I commit to take away and just see what we can do to support, because that's one of the areas that we've been working in over the years. Security is a big one. One of the things I would like to recommend, and I think somebody said it, the lady from UONET, just plugging into the wider networks that deal with security. I know that at the EAC, there's actually a committee that works on issues of peace building and security. Maybe that's one of the forums EAC could actually raise some of these issues, because definitely this is a regional issue. It's not something that can be resolved within one country. But I think it's something that should be highlighted to the EAC Secretariat. There's a lot of evidence that has been raised from the women today. Very sad to hear that people are dying. Even the women who died, I think, when they went into DRC. So it's really disturbing to hear these stories. But I think there's opportunities to bring these conversations again at the center of the discussions going on at the regional level. GBV again has been raised quite a bit. This project with EAC is doing work in this area. We again recognize that we cannot do this alone. Therefore, partnerships like UONET and others are very important for us. But the main thing I think it was said, is just to raise awareness. what are the forms in which this harassment presents itself, because some of it is very subtle, and so it could be missed. And so a lot of the work we're doing is around sensitization, but also recognizing that there are many other players, including the government, who are doing work in this area, and just to see how we can address that. Obviously, one of the big things for us, and I like the fact that there were many testimonials from women across, Busia, Mutukula, about women moving out of the panya routes, because the panya route is illegal by all intents and purposes. It is illegal. So it's not to say that those people who take advantage are right, but if you're trading using the wrong crossing, then obviously you're more vulnerable, and it will be very difficult to address that. But if you're being harassed or exploited when you're using the right channels for trade, that is definitely something that cannot be accepted. And that's what we are ongoing. And I was also very happy to see the acknowledgement of URA. URA has been a big champion for this, just supporting the cause for women cross-border traders. And I hope we can get the same support in the other revenue authorities across East Africa, because this is a partnership. It's not something anybody, again, can do alone. It requires collaboration between the government agencies, the border agencies, and the women associations, the women leaders in these locations. So that's also ongoing. Access to finance, again, has been mentioned quite a bit. Our mandate doesn't include access to finance, Trademark East Africa. However, again, we do acknowledge that it's an issue and it's something that has to be addressed. I was happy to hear of the different initiatives happening in Uganda. And I hope that the next time we have another conversation, we'll actually be hearing of uptake by women-owned businesses. But what I wanted to say is, again, in light with the COVID-19 response, Trademark is currently partnering with the project called Financial Sector Deepening, both Uganda and Kenya. And we're doing a pilot where we're providing cash transfers and what we call patient capital to some of the cross-border women cross-border traders or women traders. So this is not a very big envelope of money, obviously, and I mean the need is much more. But for us, it's a good pilot because we want to present a business case to the commercial banks that women trade cross-border traders are a viable segment to actually finance. Many people, because they are seen to be all informal or all these things that people say or perceive about women cross-border traders, which I think are not true. We want to share the learnings from this pilot to the businesses, to the private sector, and to say, you know what, these are people you can trust with your money. They will pay back. They're doing business. You just have to structure the right product. So thank you. So that's happening also. One of the initiatives we are doing in that space, but also happy to recognize EASI is partnering the Opportunity Bank and many others that are also in this space to provide affordable and appropriate solutions. Because I think solutions are there, but whether they're actually the right solutions for the women in cross-border trade, I think is what needs to be the issue at hand. Trade facilitation, that has been spoken about quite a bit. NTBs, Trademark has a big investment in NTBs, elimination through our other programs. I think what I sense here as an opportunity is just the coordination. One of the things we wanted to do was to get EASI and other associations on those committees. And I believe there's representation going on right now. There's an echo coming through. But one of the things that we need to do is, of course, coordination. A lot of coordination. Information sharing is very critical, because I think one of the issues, somebody mentioned the disconnect between the center and the borders. So things could be agreed. I think it was the lady who spoke from South Sudan. that, okay, fine, we're having a conversation in Kampala today, but will this information be translated to what's actually happening on the ground in Elegu, for example, or Nimule? And I think that's the challenge for all of us, that a lot of what is agreed is actually then executed or implemented in the borders. And I think that's the role that also EACI plays in terms of monitoring commitments, have the commitments that have been made at the center, whether it's EAC or in the national or in the capital cities, are these commitments being seen through? And that's part of the role that EACI plays. And then as I conclude, I think Hope Bizan, who mentioned digitization. Yes, that's a big deal. I mean, COVID taught us that we don't have an option but to look at digital solutions in whatever form they present themselves. It may just be for marketing, it may be for information access, but the digital space is something we have to embrace. So I don't know if Yasi mentioned this earlier, but one of the things that Trademark is supporting with is, again, creating a database of the women traders across the region. I think this is really important to know where the women are. It's a profiling, like somebody mentioned, for SMEs. The same thing is happening for women cross-border traders. Where are they? What are they trading? Who are they? How do you reach them? I recall during the lockdown, one of the conversations we were trying to have with Jumia at the time, thinking, okay, how can we support women to get on board, just to find a platform to sell when markets were closed and there was no movement. And one of the questions that someone from Jumia asked us, they said, okay, so where are these women and how much volumes are they holding? And we couldn't confidently answer that question at the time because we do not have that information. So I think this is a great initiative, building the database, because then you can confidently say, in Mutukula, we have 2,000 women, they have this much worth of volumes of goods in this commodity that could be, sold or whatever. So it's a good start. It's a good start to really building up that transition to digital trading. Again, on Trademark side, we're also developing an information, what we call an information platform. We're going to have this in all the 5 East Africa partner states. And really just the idea is to find a hub of information that women can access. One place where you can come to find all the information that you require around trading, around business, around taxation, around even other things that may not be trade related, but are related to business for women, finance, training opportunities. That's what we are doing, and we shall be coming to you soon to present this solution for your validation. So we hope that you will get your positive response in the coming months. But we see this as a great opportunity. And of course, tied to that information portal, we'll also be doing training on how women can use digital platforms to access markets, digital platforms to access services, of course, to get buyers and sellers and all that that women traders are looking out for. So we'll keep you posted on that opportunity. And I think tied to that, which is my last point I would like to share today, is the issue of the Africa Free Continental Free Trade Area. I mean, we all know that that's a commitment we've made. That's the way the continent is going. We're going to be trading across as one regional bloc. I think we are prepared in many ways. The East Africa community has been a very strong community. There's so many lessons that we have in East Africa that they do not have in South Africa or West Africa. So one of the things we're going to do in terms of positioning ourselves is that knowledge. The experiences shared here today have been very rich and very insightful. So how do you share that information with the rest of Africa? The lessons they learn. That is one way I think we can quickly position ourselves because we do have the experiences, we do have the successes, we do have the challenges that can be shared across the region. And then the connectivity. Forming associations, somebody talked about the power of the collective. I don't think there's an option there as well. We'll have to trade collectively. As you go out to look for markets in Central African Republic or in, Niger or wherever, it's going to be much easier when we are trading collectively. So I think it's something as we go on with our trade, with our capacity building and our programs, we have to keep in mind that that is where we're going. We're going to the continent now. And so how prepared are we? How prepared are we? And that's where the issue of digitization also comes in very handy. But I also think we will go into this space as knowledge, as experts, really, or people who have knowledge, a wealth of knowledge that other regions may not necessarily have. And that I think is going to be an advantage coming from the East Africa community and from the work that EASI is doing. So I think that's it for me. Just again, to thank you all very much. There's a lot to take away and think about from these discussions today. But I'm really so proud. I'm really so proud. I mean, I have seen the change, the transformation just from the panelists today, the cross-border women traders, as they spoke today. I was really, really proud because I'm like, this is what it looks like to empower a woman cross-border trader. So congratulations to you all, to EASI and the Women Cross-Border Associations and the people that you represent who may not be on this call today. I think we've come a long way. And I think we should celebrate. I think we should celebrate the success and how far we've come. I know COVID eroded a lot of those gains, but just hearing people speak today for me just gave me hope that post-COVID, as this discussion was talking about today, this forum, I think we're going to come out stronger and better. And I think the businesses, the trading models we will build will stand the test of time. I think the lessons from COVID will do that, will strengthen a lot of the models we have in place. So just want to thank you all again. I don't want to stand between you and your lunch. Thank you all very much for this forum. And I do wish you all the best. You have the commitment of Trademark. We are a partner. We're here to support and looking forward to just implementing some of the recommendations that have come out of this forum this morning and afternoon and early afternoon. So thank you all and have a good afternoon. I'll hand it back to the EASI team in Kampala. Thank you.
Restoring hope, especially in the women cross-border traders and ourselves as the implementing partners, that there is also life after COVID, and there is so much in pipeline that is going to be done. And also thanks to Trademark for the continued support, especially to EASI over the years. And here we are still moving the journey. So we've come to an end of our dialogue. We want to thank you all for your participation and honoring the invites that EASI sent out to you, to the different government ministries, departments, and agencies that are even still here up to this hour. We thank you for your patience. Then we also thank the CSOs that were also able to join us. To our audience also online, we have the agencies, ministries, and departments online and also here. To the private sector, and especially our women cross-border traders from the different borders where EASI works. We thank you so much for being part of these discussions, and we hope this platform has opened us more to, to other opportunities. Then also to the media and the rest of us who are here. We want to thank you. Then just a few announcements, logistics. Lunch is served where we had the breakfast. The coupons were served out. And for transport refund, you'll see patients in the red, with a red scarf at the extreme table on the other side to handle the other logistical issues. To our participants online, we also want to thank you for your patience up to this hour. Thank you so much. God bless you all.